I finally bit the bullet and bought a tool that I've been eyeballing for the last year. And if you're in the market for a jigsaw, you may want to check this video out, as I have experience with low-end jigsaws all the way up to high-end ones. And you're going to want to stick around to the end of this video to see the secret feature of this amazing jigsaw. So if you've been watching this channel for any period of time, you'll know that I've become kind of a fanboy of the Milwaukee M12 tool lineup. But that wasn't always the case, as I started beefing up my tool inventory by getting into Ryobi. And Ryobi is a great brand, but I quickly found myself outgrowing many of their tools. So I naturally did what all woodworkers do, and I quickly graduated to Festool. Say what? Well, maybe that was back when I was making money, but there's a lot of great brands in between these two tool brands. And the price range between these two jigsaws is really quite substantial, with the Ryobi being just about $50 and the Festool being 9 times that at about $450. And I just picked up this Milwaukee for $123, so let's get it out of the box and see what it comes with. So one of the nice things about this tool is there's not a whole lot of pieces here. In fact, there's only 3 pieces in the entire box. And these 3 pieces are the anti-splinter plate, the dust cover, as well as the vacuum hose adapter. And these 3 pieces are extremely easy to install. The vacuum hose adapter slides right into the back of the tool, the anti-splinter plate slides right into the base of the tool, and the dust cover clips right onto the front. And just like that, everything is put together. Now, a couple of things about these pieces. One of the first things that you'll notice is that dust collection hose is pretty long. In fact, if we give it a measure, it's about 8¼ inches beyond the base of the tool. But there's a reason for this madness. If we look right here, this allows you to attach some larger batteries to this M12 tool. If we look at the splinter guard, you'll notice it's raised above the base of the tool due to the shoe cover. This means in order to have that splinter guard effectively reduce tear out, you're going to have to remove that shoe cover. As you can see, when that shoe cover is removed, the splinter guard is essentially flush with the bottom of the tool. If we look closer at that splinter guard, you will notice it has a little notch so that you can follow your markings. And lastly, that dust cover, in my opinion, is optional. It's great if you're using dust collection, but sometimes it just gets in the way of your vision. So let's talk about why someone with 2 functional jigsaws purchased a third. Well, first and foremost, it has everything to do with the M12 battery infrastructure. If you look at my Ryobi and my Festool, you'll notice they have one thing in common, and that's the fact that they're both corded jigsaws. Now, this doesn't make that big a difference if you're using dust collection with your jigsaw, but I rarely hook a hose up. So I think having a battery-operated jigsaw is a critical decision for any woodworker. Well, let's move on and take a look at some of my first impressions with this brand new jigsaw. One of the first things that I noticed is this tool is very ergonomic. It's got a very comfortable barrel grip, and the weight is just over 3 pounds 9 ounces. And that weight is without the battery. If I add a 2 amp hour battery, we're looking at just under 4 pounds. Which is great for fatigue, as my Festool is over 4 pounds and the Ryobi over 5. But let's dive into some of the features of the Milwaukee. In keeping with the ergonomics, you'll see that the on and off button is perfectly placed on the side of the tool for your thumb. Directly behind that on and off switch, you're going to find the fuel gauge, which is essentially a battery indicator, with 4 LED lights to show you how much juice is left in your battery. Speaking of LED lights, let's look at the front of the tool. Whenever you turn the tool on, an LED light will automatically light up your workspace. And this light will stay on for approximately 10 seconds after you turn the tool off. But that's not the only way you can control the light of this tool. If we look at the very front of the tool, you'll see there's a light button. By depressing the button, you can either turn the light on or off, and once turned on, it will stay on once again for about 10 seconds. Right below that light button, you're going to find a little rotating tab. It's this tab that controls the toolless blade changing. By rotating the knob, you can quickly and easily remove the blade and replace a blade with ease. And as you may have noticed there, this saw takes your standard T-style blades. Speaking of blades, let's once again take a look at the foot cover of this tool by removing it. If we look inside of this cover, you'll notice there's an area with the ability to store up to 2 extra blades, which is great because I'm always losing these blades. In fact, I can only find 1 blade in my entire shop right now. The next thing that I want to take a look at is the speed adjustment for this tool, as this tool is variable speed. Right behind the head of the tool, you're going to find a little dial, and this dial goes from 1 to 5. And this corresponds to the number of strokes per minute, with the 1 being at 800 strokes per minute and the 5 being at 3000 strokes per minute. But there's also an A setting with this jigsaw, which stands for automatic. This starts the jigsaw out at 1500 strokes per minute and then goes up to 3000 strokes per minute. And it's this setting that can be excellent for starting off your workpiece and not tearing into it too aggressively in the beginning. Now let's talk about the movement of the blade, as there's a couple of different settings for blade movement. If we look at the side of the jigsaw, you'll see there's a little lever that goes from 0 to 4. This setting corresponds to the movement of the blade. With the setting set to 0 on the saw, the blade will simply move up and down. This setting typically provides a slower cut, but oftentimes a cleaner cut. But if you're looking for a more aggressive cut, you can change the settings to an orbital cut, which is settings 1 through 4. This can blaze through your material a little bit more aggressively, but can also sometimes have a little bit more chip out. But what if you don't want to make a 90-degree cut? Well, this jigsaw can handle that as well. If we look at the very back of the tool, you're going to find some onboard tool storage, as there's a hex key that's stored right in the foot of this tool. If we insert the key into the base of the tool, you can loosen up the hex bolt that holds the foot onto the tool. With the foot now loosened up, you can see that there's 7 preset angles that you can adjust this blade to. And there's a detent for each one of these angles, including plus or minus 45, 30, 15, and 90 degrees. Simply push the foot forward, rotate it until you hit the detent that you want, in this case 45 degrees. Then you can once again tighten down your hex bolt, place your hex key in the onboard storage, and make your cut. And just as a reminder, before making any angle cuts, you're going to want to remove that splinter guard. And just like that, you have a 45-degree cut. But let's get back to 90 degrees and talk about that secret feature that I think might be a game changer for this tool. So I already mentioned that I don't like to use dust collection with my jigsaw, but with this one, I may not need to. Jigsaws do indeed cause some dust. If we look at my floor, you can see the dust that's already been created from the few cuts we've already done. And a lot of times this dust can interfere with your view of the line you're trying to cut. But this saw has a solution for that. If we look at the right-hand side of the tool, you're going to find the blower switch. When this switch is engaged, the saw will automatically blow all that dust away from your cut line, making it much easier to follow all your lines and making your cuts a heck of a lot more accurate. And that's a pretty nice feature to have when you don't have access to dust collection. But let's do one final comparison with dust collection. So one thing that's nice about this dust collection chute is it does accept the Festool dust hose. So let's turn it on, begin to make the cut, and see how well it works. Well, I would say it just works okay, about the same as it did with that blower. But you do have a couple of options with this jigsaw, which is kind of nice at this price point. So what's my overall impression of this tool? Well, I think this is a great option, especially at this price. With its power state brushless motor, it easily has enough power to make all the twists and turns that you would normally do with a jigsaw. And that wood that I was cutting through in the beginning of the wood, well, that was hickory, and that's one of the hardest woods out there. So if you're in the market for a cordless jigsaw versus a corded jigsaw, I don't think you can afford to overlook this Milwaukee M12 Jigsaw. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video, as it really does help out this woodworking channel. Also, if you haven't checked out my website, check out FlynnDoggWoodwork.com. There you can find all sorts of fun woodworking accessories like all the t-shirts that I wear in my videos. Lastly, if you'd like to support the channel, check out my channel memberships. There you get early access to all my videos, as well as one member video a week. Until next time, take care as always. Giddy up, let's go. So a burglar broke into my house last week, so I put a red laser right on his forehead. He freaked out as well as he should have. My cats took care of the rest. No? How about this one? What's red and bad for your teeth? It's a brick. No? Let's give this one a shot. You know, red, white, and blue stands for freedom here in America. That is, unless it's flashing behind you. No? All right, last try. You know, I got pulled over last week and the cop told me my eyes looked red. So he asked me if I'd been drinking. I told him his eyes look glazed. Has he been eating donuts?